Welcome to US Rugby Happy Hour Live. Interviews with the biggest names in American rugby.
The New England Free Jacks, Major League Rugby champions. One-on-one to score.
Here are your hosts, Bill Baker and that other guy.
Good evening, everybody. I am John Fitzpatrick. This is Bill Baker. We're doing that tonight. It's like I don't know. It's like an old movie where you switch bodies. Are we doing that tonight? We have a really exciting show tonight. We're really excited to talk about this tonight because last week we had a men's rugby up-and-coming show, future Eagles and current Eagles, that kind of deal. Tonight, same thing, but for the women's side. And we're so excited to talk about this, too. There's so many great names out there that we need to talk about, and some new names that even Fitzy and I don't know about. Mm-hmm. So coming up in a couple minutes, we have USA women's head coach Sione Fukofuka. And then later in the show, YSC Rugby's Wendy Young is going to talk more about those up-and-comers as well. And we'll try to get Sione to pull some names out of them. We'll poke him a few times to let us know who he thinks. Fitzy, do you have your sketch pad out? What I'm saying is...
It's right in front of me. Yeah.
Good. Have you started your Moonshot Badge contest winning design?
No, but I've started my Moonshine Batch, if that's what you're
Moonshine? Are you a Boy Scout or are you...
No, that's hard liquor, Bill. So
hard liquor, sorry. Or Eagle Scout. No, yes. I don't know. For those who don't know what we're talking about, the men's Eagles, Scott Lawrence, they have this design contest to design the newest badges for the players to wear, and it's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
It brings me back to when I was a kid. It's like you go to the local supermarket and you fill out, you crayon a design of a pumpkin or a Halloween, and you win, I don't know, a sack of potatoes or something.
It looks like, honestly, the first thing I thought of was it was pieces of flair, like from Office Space.
Yeah. My God, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have enough flair. Speaking of flair, WER released team names and logos.
Yeah.
All right, and I know I'm being a homer, but Boston Banshees. All right, look at these. Actually, I like the name. I think my favorite logo are the Tempest.
Yeah.
But the Boston Banshees, by the way, not far from Quincy area where the Free Jacks play, is a place called the Banshee, which is a great sports pub in I think Dorchester, Boston area. Hopefully, they have their drink ups at the Banshee. What do you think? Yeah. Some great logos there, right?
I can't tell which one's my favorite. They're all pretty good. I might have to cheer for Denver just because there's not a WER Washington team yet. So when that comes online, that'll be my team, of course. So I might just have to go with Denver. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I love it. I think it's going to be great, and I can't wait to go out some Banshee matches. And another discussion later on, there was some talk up here in the Boston area about the new women's professional soccer team and the relationship with the men's soccer team Revolution and MLS, which I think actually makes sense with rugby, and we'll talk about that another time. It's just about the women's team having their own facility and all that, and how important it is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no reason to be the big sister of these clubs. If they want to do it themselves, and I'm behind them for that kind of deal. With that said, guys, listeners tuning in right now, or if you're tuning into our podcast on the replay of these shows, please like, follow, and subscribe on all social media channels pretty much. We love we love you listening, we love you watching, we love you following the show. Share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, but follow us at Eagles Overseas and at Rugby Morning on all social media channels. All right, Fitz, you ready for this?
Let's go.
This is our first head coach introduction jingle, and for those of you who have not been listening, we have a jingle writing team to introduce our guest because Fitzy and I need to take a break. We talk so much for an hour. We need someone else to do the introductions. All right, here we go. Let's do this.
Dude, him coming on the show doesn't faze. From Brisbane to Colorado, his American adventure continues to amaze. A loose head prop in his day. At least that's what Wikipedia had to say.
Who knows?
It's the Rugby World Cup year. What does he have in store for Eagles opponents to fear? Kick ass. Freshly running from a forest fire, a middle of the night escape, but now safe at home in the snowy hills of his adopted state. Oh, good. Let's give a big good day, mate.
Oh, come on. Sione, have you ever had that kind of introduction in your life?
No, I have to say that's a first. I will take umbrage to one thing: loose head prop. Like I know I've gained a few pounds in my retirement, but loose head prop was never one of my.
Well, I think we did note in that song. You'll listen to it. It says, at least that's what Wikipedia said.
Yeah, nice. Someone's done me a dirty.
Well, we're not accurate at all. Anyway,
That was great.
Sione, thank you. Really do appreciate you coming back on here. I know you've had a whirlwind of stuff going on in California, and with that said, the song also mentioned you escaped a fire in California last second, late night departures. Tell us about that. What was going on?
Yeah, so obviously the fires in California have been pretty devastating. We were monitoring the whole week that we were over there, and for the most part, they were a fair distance away, so we were pretty safe. But on the Thursday afternoon, the fires came over the horizon, and we could start to see flames and smoke come through. The centre was great. Obviously, our management were keeping track, and everything was reasonably safe. But then about 3:30 in the morning, there was a recommendation that we evacuate. So
wow.
Obviously, we'd rather be safe than sorry. So we put in place our action plan and evacuated site. And then, luckily enough, we were heading out on that Friday. So we went straight from the evacuation site, which was at one of the local high schools, colleges. And then we went to the airport and closed out the tour from there. So
wow,
different, very different.
Okay.
Wow, is everything okay? Was it difficult to breathe at that point, or were the fires far enough away where it wasn't any kind of danger at that point?
No, so there's a little bit of smoke that came through. Ash was starting to come into the centre, but by and large, it was still pretty safe. We made the decision early, and obviously wanted to be, as I said, safe rather than put ourselves in any sort of risk. So you transitioned out, and we had 50 people on site. We were lucky enough to have a number of vehicles, so everything went relatively smoothly, to be honest. Like, staff and players were outstanding. Obviously, a bit of a surprise wake up and some tired eyes, but I have to, I can't speak highly enough of the group. Everyone stayed calm, composed, and we were able to transition out.
Well, all right. Well, I'm glad you guys are okay. I'm glad. Obviously, it's just devastating things going on in California, and there's still some fires going on out that way as well, if you watch the news. All right. So, Sione, before we talk about 2025, which, by the way, I don't have to tell you, it's a huge year. So, looking back at this past year, would you consider 2024 a successful year? And by that, I mean like goals met. I don't know, wins, losses, WXV1, etc. So, do you consider it a successful year, and why?
Yeah, I'd consider it, from a program point of view, a pretty successful year. In terms of goals met, we qualified for the World Cup. We qualified for WXV1, which was a big goal of ours from a performance perspective in that first part of the year. Wins and losses, I would probably say we didn't achieve what we set out to. We had set a goal of winning both games against Japan, obviously drawing one in trying conditions, but at the same time, we felt we were strong enough to obviously get results in those games. And then WXV1, we went into that tournament knowing it was a big challenge. We're playing world number 1, world number 4, and then I think Ireland were ranked at 7th at that stage. So we were playing teams ranked above us, but we were pretty confident that we would be able to perform well enough to beat Ireland. And that's probably the one game from a performance perspective in terms of results that we let slip. But overall, 12 months, a really clear idea of the playing group, the player pool, pretty consistent selections across that 12 months in terms of key positions in particular. Adding to that, we debuted, I think, 8 players last year, as well as probably just as important as the playing group was our off-field staff and building that coaching team that we feel is going to allow us to be successful this year. So, I know I've gone around in a circle there, but effectively, overall, I'd say it's a pass mark. However, there are still a lot of growth left in our program between now and World Cup, which is exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and ahead of the World Cup, of course, you've got the Pac 4 series that resumes in May. So big matches there, right? Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the opponents you want to face, right? In a run up to a Rugby World Cup to test yourself. You mentioned eight new caps. Are you preparing to pretty much bring maybe your quote unquote Rugby World Cup squad? Or are you trying to maybe cap a couple more players for this Pac 4 series?
Yeah, so the intent with Pac 4 in particular is to obviously build the base around the experienced players, because clearly we need them to get as much time together as possible. But we've got to be honest that the form of the wider pool will be really important. Clearly, we're projecting ahead, and there's some players that will have a big impact on World Cup. But at the same time, it's really important that everyone understands that you've got to earn that jersey every test match, every tour. So if players step up to the selection criteria that was set, then we're more than happy to give them those opportunities, because we are 8 months away, or 7 months away it should be. So there's still a little bit of building that we need in that squad. It's definitely not locked in at this point. And there is an opportunity for players to perform and earn selection. So you may see a few new faces come with us to Pac 4.
Awesome. So we know all the opponents. We know 2 locations where these matches will be taking place. We're hearing that one against Canada, May 10th, may be here in the U.S. Blink twice if that is going to happen. Can we see the USA Women's Eagles again in the U.S. before the Rugby World Cup?
Yeah, definitely. I can share that it will be in the US. So we'll be playing Canada on, I think it's May 2nd. The venue for that will be released shortly. It's still being confirmed through World Rugby. But further to that, we'll have a prior test match against Japan in the US as well. So we'll have the aim is for us to play 3 times in the US. There'll be another match against Fiji later in the year. That again, dates will be confirmed coming up. But what it does give us an opportunity is to play at home for three matches against some exciting opponents. Japan obviously are a challenge unto themselves. They're a great work ethic, exciting team to play. And then clearly the rivalry against Canada is a big one. So having the opportunity to play that here is pretty important. And then Fiji is the unknown, and that's exciting unto itself. So that's pretty good prep.
And Fiji plays an exciting form of rugby, if you ask me. Are those matches you just mentioned, Japan, Fiji, are those summer matches? Are those the ones leading up to the World Cup?
Japan will be in the lead up to Pac 4, and Fiji will be in the lead up to World Cup. So we get an opportunity to give our full squad a chance to push for Pac 4 selections, and then obviously for World Cup in particular. So.
All right, so Sione, let's jump into the player pool. And I briefly want to talk about the PWR players, but I'd rather talk more about actually, let's just talk about them for a minute. I also want to talk about development also. But, can you talk a bit about our player pool in Europe? So, some are having some massive seasons. Kay Zachary, of course. Emily Henrik has really come on recently. Olivia Leatherman, since she joined Trailfinders, has been playing some really good rugby. Catherine Trader has become a try-scoring machine with Loughborough, and of course you got 11 on Hope Rogers and Lev. I've been on the PWR Team of the Week 3 times this season. So can you just generally overall, that group in the PWR talk about their performance and how important it is for your hopes in the Rugby World Cup?
Yeah, so the exciting thing is they're playing good rugby. The players you mentioned, and then others like Lottie Clapp is having an outstanding season for Saracens. And obviously there's probably another 5 or 6 you could mention that are being selected week in, week out. And probably the most important thing is they're playing international level opposition week in, week out. And it's a huge part of our prep. We're very lucky. We have 21 players over there playing good rugby against good opposition. They're also playing in the UK. They're playing against and with players that we'll be playing against for the World Cup. So it benefits us from a number of different levels. And clearly some of our players that have more recently gone over have then shown just how good they can be in that full-time environment, in that competitive environment. Like Olivia's come on leaps and bounds since she's arrived there, and was recognised. I think it was 2 weeks ago in the PWR Team of the Week. But it's a big part of our prep and a a big advantage for us to have the players there playing that standard of rugby.
And looking at, Katana Howard is coming back. Sakapola back from injury as well recently, a couple matches underneath their belts. But there's also someone new to the league, this woman called Alana Marr, who may be getting some attention. 3 matches in, just broke her nose a couple weeks ago, hopefully playing this weekend. I'm assuming you're keeping an eye on Alana. Alana, that's my Northeast accent just came out. Tell me about your expectations of someone like an Alana Marr. I mean, let's just say she plays 2 or 3 matches and that's it. Is that enough for you to determine she's going to be there, or is she going to be involved in early matches as well, like, say, Japan?
Yeah, so the plan for Lowe and the conversation about being involved in the 15s World Cup started May last year, was the first conversation I had. So the exciting thing was that she was keen to be part of it prior to the Olympics and obviously prior to that shift in attention, and the opportunity to go to Bristol, which is one of the top 4, top 5 teams, quality outfit, was pretty fortuitous in the end. They worked really hard to secure her signature and then get her over there. So in terms of her playing time, it was always about learning and reintegrating back into 15s. It's the games themselves, although they're rugby, 7s and 15s are growing apart. The how the games are played tactically is a very different landscape. So having the opportunity for her to be there, integrate into that system is pretty important. In terms of her playing time, the more she can play in Bristol, the better. So she's played obviously the first 3, and then there'll be opportunities hopefully to play beyond if they get a couple of results potentially into the finals, which would be ideal from a prep point of view. And then the intent is to then integrate, if she earns selection, into the early games through Pac 4, and then get as much experience at that level as possible, but also building combinations, which is so important, especially when we get to World Cup.
Well, Bristol's right there. I think they won spot out of playoffs right now with, I think, 3 to go, I believe it is, and going against Exeter and the other teams that a lot of Eagles are on. But one last question before I go to you, Fitzy. One player of question is Georgie Paris Redding. Can you give us an update on her status?
Yeah, so Georgie's tracking pretty well. She did have to go in and get a little bit of a follow-up surgery just to clean up something from the original surgery in her knee. But at this stage, she's on track to be involved in Pac 4, which is pretty exciting for us. Obviously, she's had a pretty long-term layoff with the injury, but prior to that was playing some exceptional rugby for us, definitely, but also for Sale. So we're pretty optimistic that she'll be available for the back half of Pac 4, and then obviously we've got a big lead in then to the World Cup after that.
Yeah, Sione, let's talk a little bit more about the rugby that happened there as part of that national team identification camp, right? And those were the 40 U.S.-based prospects. It seemed like there was an emphasis on maybe some of like the younger U20, U23 college players coming up through that pathway. Is that a fair assessment?
It was a bit of a combination, to be honest. Obviously, we had our senior players that are domestically based, and then we had some players that had been identified through WPL over the last 12 months in that competition that, unfortunately, last year we didn't have a chance to bring in and see where they sat within the depth chart. And then definitely the third group that we invited in were those 20s, 23s that have performed on the pathway and have huge potential. One thing we've spoken about internally, but obviously the World Cup is our big focus and our goal, and as it should be. But 2026, 2027 and lead into the next cycle is also an important part of our planning. So having some of those players and getting a realistic gauge of where they're at currently, what they need to work on so that they hopefully can be Eagles in the next 12, 18, 24 months was a big part of it as well. Yeah,
I guess maybe just adding on to that question, just how do you find the right balance between, the more experienced players, right, and some of the younger players who may be kind of that bolter type role, right, who are young, maybe a little fresher in the legs, but have something they maybe want to prove. Like, how do you find that right balance when you put together like a pool like that?
Well, to be fair, it was pretty easy. The senior players are excellent. I can't speak highly enough of them. When our younger players come in, or the less experienced, they're great at sharing, and and mentoring. A number of players that have been within the program for the last 12 months in particular since I've arrived really stepped up into key leadership roles and shared as much information and as knowledge as they could, because the whole focus of the week was to build and prepare to play an inter-squad match on that Thursday. So it's not a long time together, but firstly, the senior playing group was excellent, but then the players coming in are just hungry to learn and improve themselves, and the opportunity to be involved, they were very grateful for. So it actually, it wasn't that hard to be fair. And we were really happy with the standard of the game on that Thursday. I think the scoreline finished at 34-31, with the last 5 minutes being back and forth. Where although it was an inter-squad trial, so to speak, neither team wanted to let it slip, and it was pretty competitive and some pretty good rugby played, which we were pretty happy with.
So I know it's tough to talk about specific players, and I get it, but maybe just focusing on that game, the inter-squad game, since the public didn't get to see it. Any new faces or players that maybe stood out in that game that you can share?
But definitely a few players that I won't say surprised us, but really stepped up and took the challenge throughout the week in that game. In terms of giving them public attention, I guess
you can just make them run extra when you highlight them, right?
No, they earned it because they did. They stepped up and played really well. One that's probably not a new face, but is new to 15s. Nicole Heatherland has come into the 15s program, and she's balancing the 7s and the 15s at the moment. She was excellent. Her first taste of 15, I think it's in 6 years. So she really had an impact on the group and played well in the inter-squad trial, which you'd kind of expect. She's a professional player, and that transition wasn't as challenging, but we had her in at 10, and that's a tough position to transition into. A couple of the younger players that came through that we were happy with what they showed us, and hopefully we can keep supporting their development, were Erica Koulibaly, who's on the wing here for Colorado, played really well through the WPL and in the finals, which is why she was invited to the camp. She had a very, very good game. Ina Bailey's just come back from a knee injury, and considering has been out for a long time, her work rate and ball carries were excellent. And then, just I don't know if she's new. Cass Bargell keeps pushing forward in terms of her time at 9, and young Sadie Shear was very good as well. Didn't get to play a lot for Dartmouth this year. She had an injury, so clearly saved all that up for last week, and she had a really positive impact to it. There are a couple of others, but obviously, those were the standouts that really stepped up to the opportunity.
Curious. This isn't like a tryout. It kind of is, but it's not a strict tryout. So I'm wondering how much patience you and the staff have with the players in these identification camps. And what I mean is, do you help them as much as you can? Arms down, wrap the knees, whatever, or is it, you don't have it, pack up and go home?
No, definitely. The way that
good.
The way that we structure the camp is it's about learning and development first. The outcome is to play that game, but the framework to it is we followed very similar to what we would do on a tour campaign, where effectively we get 6 days normally to land, medical check, and then transition in. And I know Scott said the same thing about the men. Like we just don't have a lot of time to spend outside of obviously test match prep. So we framed it in a similar model, which was challenging in some aspects, but then our job as coaching staff, and that's where the senior players really helped, is to provide the players with as much support as we can so that they do feel prepared to play. And the biggest challenge in that environment is to feel confident enough to express yourself and play versus, do I have to be here? Do I have to be there? And kind of get a little bit cluttered. So we tried to simplify, at the same time challenge, if that makes sense. And again, the playing group was excellent. It wasn't perfect by any means, and when we review and give feedback, there'll be some work-ons. But by and large, they really embraced what they were given, and then we were able to see a big chunk of that in that game.
So you now have a tour coming up, or the women's program has a tour coming up, the Pathways Talent ID Tour. 8 stops, and the first one's coming up this weekend. Yourself, Emily Bidwell, when she gets back. One thing I got to ask you, and some people I know in the South or other places of the country have said, hey, how come there's not a stop here? So logistically, is there a reason why there are certain regions of the country there that just isn't a stop? Or is it we just can't find the right place, or it's not like a lack of players, or what would be the reason?
No, it's a little bit of logistical planning. There will be more stops announced. I think there's 4 more stops that will be announced within the coming weeks because of obviously the request out there, but also we've been able to secure then some locations and be able to facilitate it, because one of the challenges obviously is facilitating it with staff and getting people moving around, because we do want national team pathway coaches available. It is important that we facilitate it with the people that can make those decisions, and hopefully not only just identify the talent, but give players an opportunity to get a little bit of development across those days as well. So the exciting thing is, with the extra 4 stops, it brings us, I think, to 12, which massive country, so still doesn't hit every single area, but hopefully will give a majority of people an opportunity to come within a vicinity that they can get access to and come and trial for those days.
Good.
Well, Sione, now that you've maybe had 18 months or so, or a year to get settled, get your arms around things, racking up the frequent flyer miles, crisscrossing the country, around the globe. I guess here in the U.S., from your point of view, there's obviously certain areas of rugby talent that people know about, but have you seen maybe more interest or more talent coming out of some areas that would maybe, I don't know if surprise people, would just maybe show the spread of the game in the U.S.?
I don't know if it's a surprise to anyone, but obviously there's a number of players that come out of Southern California. It's a really strong hub there. And I haven't been in the US long enough to know whether that was because the Sevens program was there and people have been drawn to it, or the population there. Utah, Hawaii are another couple of really strong areas. But by and large, if you look at our player pool, players that come from everywhere, and that's the potential and the excitement of the US. It's such a big country. The challenge, obviously, is exactly what you mentioned there before, is giving them opportunities, seeing the talent, identifying it, and then supporting along that pathway. But I will say, to answer your question, probably a little bit of a surprise to me, because it's all going to be a surprise. But that Utah pocket, and then definitely Southern California have been 2 that a number of the 7s and 15s players have come through.
Let's jump into talking Rugby World Cup. Rugby World Cup preparations.
This year?
Big year, huh? Big year. A lot of it's kind of like building up, preparing for it. Few questions around this. Just how many players ultimately will be named to the Rugby World Cup squad heading to England?
Yeah, so we'll take 32 players to England. That's an extension, I think, of 2 from, I think, 32 in the last World Cup because of COVID, but previous to that it was 30. So
yeah, and I'm just curious, as part of the preparations and as part of kind of the staff that gets built out for this, and you always hear about coaches trying to find any edge they can get for their players. What about does the staff have like a mental performance coach? I don't even know if I'm using that phrase, that title correctly, but essentially a coach that comes in and
psychologist.
Helps sports psychologist, right? That helps the players maybe mentally, I don't know, prepare for the moment, so to speak. Is there some of those preps that go into such a big event like a Rugby World Cup? Yeah,
so that was one thing was identified last year, that it was an area that we needed support in. One of our key reflections on WXV, we felt that our rugby was trending in the right direction, but some of our key moments, our decisions and how we performed under pressure. So this year we've been able to facilitate the engagement of a sports psychologist that will come in and he'll work with us across the preparation and then be with us for the World Cup, which is pretty exciting. And then external to that, we have some mental health support that USA Rugby has organised in the background that's available remotely and then in person if needed. So building out that full holistic program has been a challenge, but also something that is pretty exciting. We're able to facilitate for 25.
Sione, how does it feel to be playing in the opening match of the World Cup? Is that any different, or is it just, yeah, that's cool. We're the opener.
Oh no, it's different. Let's be honest. As soon as I'm happy to share this. I sat there and watched the pools drawn, and obviously realised that we were playing England and then Australia. Yeah. Of course, there's a nice little irony there, and then Samoa. And once that was announced, you can't control it. Obviously, it's a little bit of a out of your hands. But once it was announced that we'd be playing England, I was pretty happy that we got that opening game because it is an occasion. You won't be surprised. It won't be hard for the girls to live for it. They understand what it means and what it's about and the atmosphere around it. I was lucky in the previous World Cup coaching for Australia. We had that opening match against New Zealand at Eden Park, and it was an occasion, and the girls embraced it. And one of the challenges, or sorry, I should have said one of the interesting parts is I was on the sideline running messages. Was for about 25 minutes of that game, the crowd was silent, and we'd come out and shock them a little bit. And if we follow that suit next year or this year, August 22nd against England, I feel like our girls will really rise and lift for that. So yeah, it's exciting.
Well, anything you can do to get the upper hand, even if Charlie Jacoby, when she joins Queensland, can have, I don't know, video, because there's a number of Wallaroos on that team. So you don't have to do it. No, we'll handle it. Don't tell anybody. We'll do it for you.
Any advantage helps.
Yeah. Sione, thank you so much for joining us. We're always excited to talk to you. We were one of the first who talked to you when you first moved to the country. We were sorry about that, but but seriously, we're so excited to get you to the show, and we can't wait to get you back on, hopefully before the World Cup kicks off. So good luck with these camps coming up, the tour IDs. Good luck with the Pac-4. Good luck with all of it leading up to the World Cup. We're so excited about this year.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. It's a big year, obviously, but as you said, I had the pleasure of being on the show about 12 months ago when I first arrived. I've learned a lot since then and really enjoyed it, but I appreciate every time I get the chance to come on and chat rugby with you. So thank you guys too.
All right, man. Cheers. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye. All right, I didn't kick him off too early. I kicked him off the right time.
One, fantastic. Two, I'm fired up for USA England as the opener. I love that they wanted that, essentially. It's like, yeah, let's go. Like, that's amazing.
Oh, I know it. I'm pumped too. Listeners, real quick, in case you missed it, we just had on the head coach of the women's rugby team, or 15's USA rugby team, Sione Fukofuka. And we had a blast talking about 2014, the camps they have going on, the camps in California, the fires in California, and the 25 season coming up, which is a big year. And in a minute or two, we're about to have Wendy Young from YSC Rugby join us to talk more about the USA Women's program leading into the 25 and actually these camps. She knows a lot more about these players than you and I do. I know, Fitzy, you talk a big game, but you don't know as much as she does. So anyway, I hope she's listening. I hope she's waiting I think she's in the green room. She might be taking a nap on the couch. I'm not sure, but I know she's ready. So either way, listeners, this is US Rugby Happy Hour Live. I, again, am John Fitzpatrick, and he is Bill Baker. In case things go wrong.
You on this side?
Anyway, Fitzy, what do you say? Let's get to the next guest.
Yeah. Do you have another song?
I do have another song. I don't see her right now, but we talked about it. I see her feed, but I'm hoping she's there.
Stalling.
We will find out in a minute. But we'll do the song anyway. I want to hear the song. That's the only thing. So we will have to get her on here in a second and see how it goes. So anyway, right now, YSC Rugby's own Wendy Young is joining us. And to do the introduction, which I almost just did there, is probably our newest hit. Will definitely win us a Grammy. Are you ready for this one?
Yeah, of course.
Let's do this.
It's time. Let's bring on the leader in women's rugby coverage. Your scrum half connection, the mastermind behind. We're assuming she once played scrum half, or has a thing for scrum halves. Former rugby referee, coach, Rugby Hall of Famer, host with the most of a dose of all things awesome in women's rugby. Let's give it up for Wendy Young.
I think she's there. She has no video, but that's okay. Wendy, are you there?
Overwhelmed by how amazing that song was.
I am here, and I don't know why my video's not working. I've been on video calls all day long, so don't worry.
Were you able to hear the song at all?
I heard a little bit of it. I heard Sione's. That was amazing.
Oh, yours is pretty darn good too. We will post that online somewhere for you to read. Actually, listeners, we do outside of our podcast replays of these shows. We on Sunday mornings or late night Saturday, the jingle songs post as bonus episodes. So you can actually create a Spotify or Apple playlist of just our intro songs.
Gotta do that.
So yes, so there will be a Wendy Young song.
Amazing. Oh, I'm so honored.
You should be. I mean, I'm sorry. We have more fun, I think, making them than playing them back. But so, Wendy, I know we can't see you, and that's okay. That's okay. We can always try to figure it out in a minute. It's fine. But how are you? It's been a bit.
I'm good, I'm so pumped up, like you guys were saying after listening to Sione. I mean, the camps, it's World Cup year, Alona Mars everywhere. Like, it's just so cool.
Yeah.
WER being released today, just such a cool time.
Oh, it's historic. I mean, it's the popularity of women's rugby is in my mind at an all-time high for many reasons. Alona's one of them. The stuff you do over the years is another reason for it. The base of it, the stuff that Fitzy does. All right, a little bit, but
2 shots at me today, Bill.
it's what we're doing here. But it's exciting, and you know what? Wendy, we obviously have you on the show tonight to talk about USA player pool, but more specifically the up and coming players as well. But first, let's talk about that a bit, Alona Mar, whatever. Let's talk about PWR players for a second. The Rachel Johnsons, Lev Kelchers, Kate Zachary's, Hope Rogers are playing great. But let's talk about a few others briefly. The first is the most obvious. Again, Alona Mar, of course. 3 appearances, 2 starts. Was out last week with a broken nose. The Bristol has a chance to get the playoffs. Her excitement's bringing fans into the crowd. In the seats, they're selling tickets. What has been your opinion on how she's played, and also on the attention she's received for herself and for the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think the coolest thing about her is that she talks the game and she plays the game, right? Like, she's confident, she's there, she's a baller, she's fast, she's powerful. And there was so many people that were like, she's a 7th player, she'll never fit it on the 15s field. Yeah. And she's just proven all of them wrong, right? Like, it's just like the interview she did last week about the interviewer just pestering her about imposter syndrome. Like, she's a professional athlete. Like, she has earned every accolade, including that bronze medal, and has just crushed it, and is just a wonderful role model for all women and girls in sport. And it's just amazing to see.
Wendy, you're the head coach of the USA Women's Eagles. Is Alona Mar a World Cup roster? Is she World Cup roster spot worthy?
Now I have to do my Aussie accent, and I don't have a good Aussie accent. Yeah, I mean, I get why Sione, I liked the nugget that he dropped in his interview that they talked about this starting in May of last year. So this wasn't, a lot of people, again, thought this was a whim, right? Like, now I'm an Olympian, I have clout. No, I mean, Alana's had this on her radar, and they've been talking about it for a while. And so I think they're doing the right steps. She's a superstar. I think she gets time with Bristol. My ultimate wish list is then she comes and signs with the WER, right? Play for the Bay Breakers, and then get more time.
Not the Boston Banshees?
Yeah, come on.
Well, I mean, she's got to be by Chula, right? She's got to stay near home.
That's true.
That's a good point.
So she could do both, right? She could do like we're seeing a lot of players. They'll travel back and forth for 7s and 15s, But if I think I take her for the star power alone.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're going to take her. And I think I would like to see her move into the centers. I think an Alona, we see it on the 7s field all the time, would be spectacular and crushing.
Will we see her play the centers maybe for Bristol in the next couple of weeks? Like, why not?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Bristol's coach
I'd like
has
to.
said he's thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
I've had conversations with Sione, and I think he said this publicly as well, that they want to get her time in other spots. It's just a matter of they really need to get into the semis so they get more games,
Yeah.
right? And they're in that 5th position, and so they've got to win this weekend,
Yeah.
which is another sellout for them, which is exciting. Hopefully, she can play. She broke her nose in the 76th minute last week, So I mean, all the stars have to align, but she's doing the work. Her teammates seem to love her. And the crowds. I mean, we also talked a lot about that the Olympics fans that found her wouldn't follow her. We had Americans flying to England who have never seen rugby to watch her play rugby. Like,
That's awesome.
Okay.
and this weekend it's Loughborough Lightning,
Yeah,
which has
it's a big one.
4 amazing USA Eagles in that team as well. And I personally, like Fitzy would led up to, I'd love to see Alana go head to head with Alev.
Yeah, for sure, right? Like, they do it at practice, but like then they're teammates all the time. And yeah, I mean, it's fun to watch them playing each other. I mean, with Exeter, you're like, oh, Rachel Johnson got her, it's just a nice matchup. And I mean, like we were saying, there's 21 Eagles over there playing in the PWR, and we're hopeful that some will play in the WER. Some have been announced, obviously, with the foundational players, but it's just a really exciting time. And I think that, the Eagles there's a lot of pressure to rise for them. And we had Tamara Shepard at the WRCRA conference in Denver last week, and I got to chat with her a lot, and
Congrats
25
on hosting
is
that, by
a
the way.
goal. Thank you. Yeah, 25 is a goal, but like 29 is really the goal, right? Like how much can you improve in 4 years? And that's, I think, the challenge right now.
All right, a couple more things before we get on to the up-and-comers. One more question about PWR, and then we'll have a little WER. We'll move on. But this is a long question, I think. I'm going to throw out a bunch of names to you, and I want you to talk about some of these players. You don't have to talk about all of them. These are some of the lesser known. There's some, of course, like Gabby Cantorna, she just returned from injury, been out since November. Katana Howard's finally back from being out the entire season, 2 appearances so far. Georgie, Paris Redding, who you just heard Sione said she'll be back soon, thank God. Not thank God. I mean, she's such an amazing player to see her out there.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a couple other players out there that really have drew my attention. Olivia Leatherman, that we talked to Sione about. She played so well since joining Trailfinders, 7 consecutive starts. Has done great. Sagapola's back from injury. She's just 2 appearances so far, but I love the way she plays also. So looking at those younger players like Leatherman, how do you think they're going to fit in going into this 2025?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting mixture, right? So we've got all these players playing the PWR, playing high caliber international athletes. Exeter's stacked. Saracens is stacked with England internationals, Canadian internationals, French internationals. It's just amazing the competition they're getting over there. But it's just going to be about how they mesh when they get to these pre-camps, right? And we've heard some nuggets of how many games the Eagles are going to have leading up to the World Cup. It's sounding like 4 or 5 now, which is exciting. And so I think we'll get all those dates soon, and we'll get all those locked in. But those are going to be really Sione's chance to see these players and get Leatherman in and see how she plays with Sagapolo in that front row or wherever they end up, right? Like, and Alev and Alona maybe in the centers. And then maybe we'll see Chetta Ember and Nicole Heverland getting in on, Heverland at 10 is exciting. We heard Sione say that as well. So I think this is the time for him to try out these combinations and then, get to that 32-player squad. But I think, in the PWR, we're starting to see more of those games being streamed as well. And I think Alona has obviously helped with that too. So Siona's getting to see these players in and out every week. And I think that's critical. And just the access that they're getting to high-level rugby over there is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as we know, there's going to be some more access to high-level rugby here in the U.S. Women's Elite Rugby kicking off. I believe that's April. I know the schedule's not out yet.
March,
soon to
I
come.
think,
The big news, obviously, of course, was the release of the team names and logos for the first 6. There it is, Bill. Show it up on the screen.
It's up there.
Wendy, do you have a favorite name or favorite logo that you've seen?
These are so fun. And I'm, I just have to give credit to the WER team. They're really fun. I like the colors. My wife hasn't posted it on LinkedIn yet, but she's actually their director of rugby operations for WER now. So I'm also biased. to loving this league. So shout out to Tracy, my wife. She needs to update her LinkedIn. But yeah, I think, Exiles is really fun. I'm really partial to the teal, just like the Liberty. And then the Onyx. I think the pink and black is going to just be probably the sickest kid out there. And we showed our son, and he's like, I want one of all of them. I want a T-shirt. I want a hat. This is the time, and this league is really, really exciting. And some of the coolest takes I've seen on TikTok were like, these are better than the PWHL logos. And not that you want to be better, right? Because it's all women's sports. We want to be awesome. But that's pretty exciting. And to see how many, I would say, non-rugby people that are talking about these logos and colors is really, really exciting.
I'm excited about merch. I'm sorry. I can't wait for merch to come out. I am going to buy up some stuff. Not even just Boston Banshees. I'm going to get it all, I think.
Maybe and it's already up. The store's up, right? I heard they have sales already today. So I would say get it in now, because they're going to be having a struggle maybe to make it for a little bit, because it's all new, and then they'll get it to you as fast as they can. But yeah, let's buy stuff. Let's support this league. Let's go.
Oh, 100%.
Go ahead, Bill.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. All right. Let's jump forward, Wendy. Let's talk about, there was a camp just this past week or so ago that ended in California, the National Team Identification Camp. 40 players invited across college, U20s, U23s, some current Eagles domestically. I might have the numbers loosely wrong here, but 12 college players, 24 WER, WPL players, 3 sevens players, some crossovers too. So a really interesting mix of players. So let's talk about a few of these players that fans should be aware of. And we're going to start with the forwards, Wendy. Again, we seem to see some really strong college forwards up and coming. Jordan LeBeau, Dartmouth College, great program. I don't know if you've ever been out their facility in New Hampshire, but it's fantastic. Freda Tafuna from Lindenwood, another great rugby program in college. And then, of course, you got Eagle. I can't say the word. I can't talk right now. Fitzy, it's your fault. Rachel Aronecki for Colorado. So talk about them and some other up-and-coming forwards.
Yeah, I think, this is an area of forwards I think are key, obviously, for any rugby team, right? That's the obvious part. But I think there's been kind of a small depth issue looking across the last couple of years for particularly the women. And I think a lot of it has to do with, our girls' high school and youth rugby is growing, but a lot of it plays sevens. And so these athletes are getting to college, having to learn to scrum. They're only getting a couple years at it. And then expected to go and perform with these international athletes, right? So it's been a problem, and I think we're getting better at it. And I think looking at this list, like you mentioned, Jordan LeBeau from Dartmouth, she's super strong, and the work rate that she has off the set piece is phenomenal. And I think that youth is really what we need. We need players that can step in and just get it done in that front row in particular. And then, of course, to match up with Catherine Treader, hooker extraordinaire, just line out pro. You want to have, somebody coming behind her. And I think that's Sahir Hamdan. She's.
Yep.
Well, we'll have to guess what she said.
There you go.
You were saying.
Did we lose? Okay. Sahir Hamdan, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
Is a super strong, to come behind Catherine. And I'm trying to push Catherine out, right? But I'm thinking of players that are pushing the envelope. They're pushing forward here. And so I think Zahir's a really good one. And then, like you mentioned, Rachel Aronecki, just phenomenal, just work ethic. Just, it's amazing.
We're excited about these forwards too, and to see, like you said, Trader's playing so well right now. We're not trying to push them out. We need depth behind all these players. So to have, even in camp coming up when they all meet, maybe before the Pac-4, if they get into camp, it's good to have that push as well, that competition. Are there positions in the forwards that maybe we don't have the depth, and so we need to, so we're looking for certain players. So what I'm saying is, like you mentioned hooker, I'm not necessarily in that position, but lock, are we not as deep in lock, let's say?
I think it's been mostly the front row where we've had some depth issues. I think we do have talented locks across the pitch because, usually your locks can become your back rows that can sort of be interchangeable, not always. right? And they do have different skill sets, but they can be interchangeable. So I think the front row is really where we've seen the depth issue, and I think we're getting better at it, and we're focusing on that. And I think we've got the right people in the pipeline. Kit Wagner-Ruiz, working with the under 20s, like super exciting. She was at the camp this weekend with Sione, and just if you've been to any of her sessions on how important the tricep is to the scrum, I never knew that, right? She can break it down to the muscle group of how important it is. And so just a really cool coach, a very technical coach, this, helping these young kids get where they need to be.
Wendy, let's move to the backs. And I don't know if you caught it in the song that Bill played for you, but the song did mention that you're a scrum half. So this is an area that position you should know well. But anyway, a few Eagles in camp: Cheta Emba, Cassidy Bargel, just to name a couple. Let's talk about the backs. Any that stand out for you outside the ones that I named?
Yeah, I think some that are really interesting is Christine Bitter. She's been in the under 23s program for a bit. She's been playing Colorado and playing behind Mackenzie, and just doing really well. And I think, her kicking is really, really key and clutch for her. She could just boom it down the pitch and really put it in behind somebody, where kicking, if you look at the 2014 World Cup and the 2017 World Cup, was not one of our strengths. We would often use an exit, but kick it right to a Kiwi who can run right down our throats, right? And we just would let them do that to us over and over and over again. And we've understood that we needed to learn tactical kicking. And I think we've gotten a lot better at that. And we saw that at the 2021 World Cup. And so I think we'll see, as we've seen in the women's game, kicking has become a very strong skill. So I think having her there, you mentioned Cheta Emba, but I have to just talk about Cheta Emba. She is such a standout for, of course, the sevens program. I'm really excited that she's thinking about making a switch here. And she could be in the wing, she could be in the centers. And she's just another one that is going to just bring power and speed to this back line. And then Jade McGrath, center for Bay Area. She was a standout in the WER Legacy Final, the WPL Final. Just absolutely wonderful. So excited that she's a foundational player for Bay Area. And, young, strong, super dynamic. Can't wait to see her out there.
And talking about Cheta for a second, I want to get into sevens players coming in here, transition to 15s who are at that camp. But generally speaking, with Cheta and a few other players, is there any particular reason maybe they didn't try to make the move over to Europe, or did they try, or it just is too expensive, that kind of thing?
I don't have super personal knowledge of this, but what I'm happy to spread some rumors, right? From what I've heard, the USA Sevens contract monetarily is actually quite good now. It's grown. There's more support. And so
thank you, Michelle.
From what I'm
$4 million.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Michelle Kane gave him $4 million. So they've just split that up. No, of course not. And then the sponsorships that we're hearing from these players, right? Becoming an Olympian and winning a bronze medal opened a lot of doors for a lot of these players. So now going over to the PWR, where they won't make nearly as much as they could if they stay here in America, has been what I've heard. But I don't know. It's an interesting topic, right?
It is. Okay, so the other sevens players, obviously we got Alona Mar and Alev Kelter doing well over in PWR, but we also have a couple in camp as well, like Nicole Heverland, as for example. So let's talk about her and the other sevens players. Again, Cheta again, and Joanna. How are they fitting in with this group?
Yeah, we heard it right from Sione that Nicole Heverland doing the fly half thing. I think that's really exciting. She is just a workhorse. And she's Alona's best friend. So I think they come together. Oh. And I think we'll see Alan out there too, from Dancing with the Stars, right? I think they come as a package. I think her experience, her calmness, if you've ever watched her play sevens in the fray, there's chaos happening and she's just there doing the work, right? And I think that just really lends to what she does and how she is as a person. She's really calm under pressure, and I think that's exciting. Nana Fiavesi, we've seen her. She played against Japan. She played in a couple of internationals last year. I think, again, another really experienced player. But just her ability to make something of nothing, they'll give her the ball with no space, and then all of a sudden you're like, she's through. What is she doing? Oh, my gosh, look at her go. I just love her physicality. So I think these transitioning stars, like we're seeing with Canada, has several sevens players that just dance back and forth between 15s and sevens with Olivia Apps. And, it's same thing with the Kiwis. Like, it's just like Stacey Walker's suddenly back and then she's in a 15 squad again. I think that we picked that up, right? That you can share these players and make the best of both worlds. And so I think, it may be slightly frustrating for some of these young players that want to come in, seeing these Olympians walking up, but you can't say no to this experience, right? I mean, you just can't say no to it.
Wendy, let's touch on a little bit of these crossover athletes that are coming from other sports. We keep hearing the phrase, crossover athletes. It's the secret sauce to, maybe growing the game or getting, high other elite athletes over into rugby. On the men's side, we see it with college football. There's parallels there. On the women's side, right, we've seen Kelter from ice hockey and Krista Kershey from sevens from playing college soccer. What sports are we seeing these crossover athletes coming from on the women's side?
Yeah, it's really exciting. I think, particularly these are college athletes, so they're doing really well. They're mostly, D1 college athletes. Mm-hmm. So Nafi Fitissimano, hooker from Harvard, elite level weightlifting, right? Like, whoa, just amazing. And to take that caliber of athlete and strength and agility and throw her in at hooker, like, you can't love that more than anything, right? Like, I think that's really exciting, and she'll be a really fun one to watch. Sadie Shears, Sione mentioned her as well, scrum half, so partial to my heart. Dartmouth, soccer player, and she's just got that field awareness, and then she's really good and tenacious on defense. Kayla Lawson's another one I would point out, a former track and field athlete specializing in sprint. So we're thinking Nia Tapper here. We're thinking just burn, right? Ariana Ramsey, just speed for all day. And then one that, another Dartmouth player, we talked about Dartmouth a lot. They're really picking up some really good athletes coming over from wrestling. Cindy Talalavu, I think is another one to keep an eye on. She's really, really physical. And sort of like when we see judo players stretch over, they're just really good tacklers and they know how to get them to the ground. And it looks like, they're going to need an adjustment after they're hit by them as well.
I'm really surprised. No basketball players, no field hockey, volleyball players, no one from the badminton team. Come on, we can't get D1 athletes. Right? Pickleball.
They're coming, right? Like, I mean, I think we're seeing a rise in registrations and people interested in playing the sport. So they're coming. Everybody's coming.
Actually, speaking of that real quick, especially with Alana Marr through, the Olympics and Dancing with the Stars, I mean, I don't think there's a percentage we can actually pinpoint, but how much of an uptick, especially at the college level, has women's rugby increased?
Yeah, I only know the real numbers for club because I'm part of the club council, the competitions committee, and it's a 43% increase. Like,
holy cow.
Insane, right? And a lot of it, 26%, if I'm remembering my numbers right, is women. So it is a huge boon for women.
So post-college, like not even college players, just
club,
post-college.
Yeah, because I don't know for college. I don't know those numbers. I know that they are seeing growth. All the college, NCR, everybody is seeing growth. It's about 16% from, we did some recent numbers for that conference that I mentioned. I don't know how many are brand new to rugby, but it's booming right now. This is the time for women's sports. And if you're not on board, get on board.
Yeah, no kidding. So the attendance of young prospects like Sadie, we mentioned her a couple of times, and Nafi, does this show? I mean, this is evidence of the strength of the U20 into U23 pathways. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, and I'm so excited that those are back, right? Like, we need these programs. We need them to have support. I know that, like, NCR is also starting one, and they're going to go over to the World Cup and take a team. And so we've got the USA side, we've got the NCR side. Like, I think it's really exciting. And we've got to have these pipelines, right, where they're playing more games. I mean, we know that. We've done strategic sessions for decades now that rugby players need to play more games. And so if we can get them playing more high-performance games, that's exactly what we need. And so those pipelines and pathways are working. And I think the college programs are really contributing to it as well. They're getting more professional. They're getting more experienced coaches in there as well. And it's all just feeding the monster, which is amazing.
Wendy, last two questions here for you. MLR season's coming up in 2 weeks. Will we hear you calling more games?
You will. We got our schedules. I'm excited. Okay. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I've been trying to keep track of all the transfers, and so thank you to all the gents that do that online and seeing some of the pre-games. Looking like it's going to be a really exciting season.
All right. Tell us your favorite to win it don't say the Free Jacks.
Right?
Yes.
Man, I would have said Dallas, but that team, just Texas, we've lost all our teams, except for Houston, of course. I think it might be LA's time. It seems like they've got that community support. They've got some superstars that are coming in.
Yeah,
I like LA. I mean, you can't count out the Free Jacks. And then I would also put Seattle in the boat. They've been second too many times, right? They've got the gown, they've got all the pretty formal attire, and they just need to get it done.
They got the gown? Do you say they have the gown?
Yeah, they're ready to go to the ball. They're always
okay.
going to the ball.
Right over my head. Sorry. Wendy, we can't leave without playing the open song for you again since you missed the first half of it.
Yeah, that's right.
So we'll go for it. It's about 8 minutes long. I'm just kidding.
The extended cut.
Right. So here you go. I put all my money in Vegas that we're going to win a Grammy with this one. So hopefully we do. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
The mastermind behind. We're assuming she once played scrum half, or has a thing for scrum half. Former rugby referee, coach and player. 2 state, she's a 3-time rugby Hall of Famer.
Nice.
Host with the most of a dose of all things awesome in women's rugby. Let's give it up for Wendy Young.
There you go.
Oh my gosh, how do I get a copy of it? And can I put it on
I'll
my
send it to
video
you.
every week?
You'll have to wait until it gets on MTV. Oh, wait.
Yeah, right? Do I pay you in pennies, or how does it work?
That works. Wendy,
send you one for every week.
Thank you. Yes. Wendy, it's been an absolute blast having you on the show again. Always fun talking to you, and your insight is just so worth it. And thank you so much for sharing all your details on these players. We're so excited about this next year. 25, such a big year for the women's rugby program.
Yeah. It is absolutely going to be phenomenal. I mean, we've got Pac-4 we've been talking about. We've got so much coming up. WER is about to kick off at the end of March. It's time. Let's go. I can't wait anymore. I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Of course, and hopefully we'll see you next time. So,
yes, I don't know what's going on. It's like I said, I've been on camera all day today. So,
you're looking a little. Your pupil is a little narrow there.
Right?
The white dot in the middle.
Got some lines on it. Yeah.
All right, Wendy. Thanks so much. Have a great night.
You too. Thanks, guys.
Bye bye. Wow, 2 for 2. I didn't kick him off early. I got it. For those of you not understanding, I tend to boot our guests off as they're saying thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for answering our questions. Get the heck out of here.
Yeah, whatever. We're done with you. Fitzy, good stuff. Really, 2 good guests. Sione Fukofuka, the head coach for the women's program, was on the first half an hour. So, listeners, if you missed that, it will be on its own separate podcast. So, go back and find that pod and listen for it. And definitely thank you for tuning into the Wendy Young pod with us, with John Fitzpatrick and myself, talking about the same thing, the 25 women's rugby year and the up-and-comers. So 2 great shows, Fitzy. Last week, we found some names we haven't heard of before, and this week was also, it's some good stuff, right?
100%. Yeah, I'm prepped. I'm ready to go for 2025.
I'm ready to suit up, put on my prom dress, or whatever, the gown. There you go. That's a whole different show. All right, guys. Listen, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Please like, follow, and subscribe us on social media. We're on pretty much every social media channel. And also share this podcast and this live show with your friends. And again, follow us at Eagles Overseas and at Rugby Morning on all your favorite social media channels. Thanks, everybody. Fitzy, good job. We'll see you next time.